I am on my way to therapy right now, and I am, gosh, this is such a funny time. This is such a funny time. Fertile dark soil. Like, I just went to my little local bookstore, and I had them order me some books that I've been looking for that they didn't have. So that's like one of the ways that I choose to support community is like waiting a week or two until the books come in, and then I buy them from this store. One is this writer who's talking about how her garden invited her into slow time. The other one is Life Form by Jenny Slate. And Jenny Slate is just funny. And it's just essays. It's just essays about her life, becoming a mother, finding herself. Like, what the fuck? Why don't I just do this? What am I doing? I want to do this. I'm at the point right now where like I'm living a dream and I'm also seeing these other people who are doing things in the world creatively, and I'm like, ooh. You know how I heard this one phrase once about how envy is a really beautiful way to discover what we want. And like I don't necessarily even feel envious of these people. I just feel curious, like what would it be like to do that? To like release a book, to publish a book. And I think I want to do it. You know what? I don't think. I want to do it. I want to focus more time writing. Wow. I don't know. Oh my gosh.
Welcome to Noticing, a podcast about nothing and everything at the same time. In this episode, we talk about fertilizing the seed, being captured by fear, how manifestation has a really good companion in generosity, the value of practicing the art of the pause in order to make conscious choice, and the dazzle of ChatGPT and why I ended my relationship with it. I hope you enjoy.
I have arrived.
You have arrived.
I know. Yeah. How are you arriving?
I'm arriving wonderful. I just meditated right before, which was lovely, with Jasper in his little nest, of course.
Love it.
Yeah. And I'm arriving today with a lot of gratitude. It was really hitting me last night, especially. It's hitting me how grateful I am for this podcast, for our friendship. It's just been such a beautiful practice of reflection, going back and when I edit the podcast, when I re-listen to it after it's out in the world. And that stemmed from just my perfectionism of like wanting to listen over and over again because I care about the quality and wanting to look for errors and things like that. And now it's morphed into this really powerful practice of reflection. Because I've always been a journaler. That's been my primary mode of reflection in the past. But I don't go back and reread my journals, or like even in therapy, like it's so powerful, but I don't go back necessarily and revisit. And this probably is something that I've learned from you because I have witnessed you doing a lot of reflection and like going back to things you've written and going back to, your own voice memos. And I'm now settling into the wisdom of this is so powerful. And I can watch myself go through this practice. And it is a practice because at first, I'm confronted with all these critical voices. And so I have to go through the practice of sitting with those and being really present and finding safety and then letting those critical voices go away instead of it getting in the way of something. Like I can see if these critical voices get in the way, I'm not going to show up for you and for whoever's listening in the most authentic way. And so I have this motivation to do that work and sit with those critical voices and let them flow through so that I can come back to emptiness. It really does feel like this process of emptiness every time I re-listen and I'm hearing new things with fresh ears. And then I'm actually practicing the things that I say, so deepening my own knowledge and practicing the things that you say. Like I found myself last night in this vivid, visceral experience of being the seed.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What was that?
It was so it started in my mind, as most things do with me, right? As like thinking about, I was thinking about resources because so often I can go to scarcity if I'm worried about having the resources I need for my life to sustain my life, right? Which I think a lot of people can struggle with that
Me
because
too.
yeah, everyone.
Yeah.
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 And I was just noticing how quickly that takes me to the future, right? This worry of the future, because right now, all of my needs are met, So it is this practice of, okay, coming back to the seed of what if I had all my resources met? The business was humming, I had all the resources, I didn't have this worry. So that's like the tree that will grow out of the seed.
Hmm.
So it started in a thought experiment of what would my thoughts, beliefs, and actions, how would they be different if the seed had already grown, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it started as this thought experiment, and then I just shifted into like this real visceral experience in my body of it's hard to describe because it really is just like this feeling and knowing, but it's like I could feel in my body what it would feel like once I have all my resources met and I don't have to have that worry. And what would that look like? Well, I would go slower. I think so often I don't allow myself that slowness because I'm captured by our culture of hustle and our
Mm-hmm.
culture of fast. But if I had all my resources met, I wouldn't care about the culture.
Right. This is why I love you so much because you're explaining something that like I have always done in my life, not consciously. So it's actually, this is why I love this podcast too. And for nothing more than just deepening these conversations and all of the ripples and layers that come from them. I remember having a conversation with my parents recently because in this whole awakening time, I've called them a lot and been like, "Did you know this? What's your what?" And I don't think that they are thinking too much about like I don't think they're analyzing a lot of things, so they actually have to kind of reach in and think, which I love. But they I remember when I was talking with them about just sort of like the track of the way that my life has gone and where I've ended up. And I'm meaning where I've ended up has been in the dream that I've held so dear to me. And I'm very, very aware that I'm living it every day now. And I remember my dad stopping the conversation because they were both on speakerphone together in the car. And he was like, "Yeah, but Chris, how did you know? Like, how did you know to follow? Like, how did you know how to follow your gut or whatever?" And it's an important question for me to think about as I move forward and deepen this practice. But I think the way that you're explaining that is helping me understand that it's always been an obvious choice for me to be in the seed stage, to like put myself in the perspective of the seed and consciously or unconsciously cultivate the soil around me.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, the biggest example that I can use right now is the building I'm sitting in. Like when the studio was being built, I would go into that future scary place and start to spin out like every human being does. And some
Yeah.
of us get more captivated by that spinning than others. And I would recognize it and say, oh, no, 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 no. Go to the fertile place. Go to the place that makes you feel the most alive in this dream and spend frequent time there. So for me, that looked like disregarding the budget, which is a real life issue that I had to face, But before I would face it, I would always go to the place where I felt the most inspired and excited for the idea, which meant standing literally in the pile of sticks and dirt that was going to be this building, this
Mm-hmm.
dream, and visualize it and get excited about it and picture myself standing in it, sitting in it, and looking from the inside out. And I think that's I think that's what it looked like in that situation, to be the seed, to like be in the seed's place. And I think if we start to go into the future too much, then it's almost as if we are giving, I don't know if it's almost as if, I think it is. We are giving our energy towards what we fear and not towards what we want. And so when we do that, then the fear becomes real, right? Like
Yeah,
you pave the road for that.
absolutely. And this is such in line with everything I've ever known, not ever known, but since I've been on this path of spirituality, consciousness, it's how I understand, for lack of a better word, I know the word manifestation has some baggage, but in the core sense of how do we create things in our life, visualizing is part of it, but it's from living in that frequency. It's from resonating, like things appear in your life when you are vibrating at a frequency that matches that thing. Well, that's what you're doing by being in that place and being the seed. And what I felt in my body last night, and I have felt in my body before, but this is such a conscious attuning to it. You're matching that vibration of the studio's already there and you have all the resources you need for the studio. So that's what kind of resonates back. And yes, when you're going to the future, you're offering your attention often to the worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
We're not like going to the future when we're captured. We're not going to the future and imagining how great it could be. You could say you're going to the future when you're standing in that space, but you're envisioning the best case, like what you want. So you're offering your attention and your vibration, your feeling in your body to what you actually consciously want, and not like the fears aren't conscious. Those are all, that's like your subconscious programming. So yeah, it would make so much sense that now you would be sitting in this place that you created because you did it so intentionally.
Right. I did. I did. Sometimes if I see people talking, you're right that the word manifestation has a lot of baggage, because sometimes I'll see people being like, manifest your dream like bajillion dollars or your dream blah blah blahs. And it feels very pitchy.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. So, and at the same time, I know what it feels like to be very afraid of the thing that feels true in you and to bravely go after that thing by putting yourself in the place of like living in the dream and visualizing the dream of it. But I guess they're kind of the same thing. They're just spoken about in different ways, maybe.
Yeah. And what I've observed from kind of being heavily, I started in that world, and that world meaning like the world of the secret, the world of manifestation, and then pulling way back out of that world and was totally disillusioned by it. And now coming back to it from a much more grounded place. It's like in a lot of things where there's a kernel of really of truth. There's a kernel of truth there. It's for some reason cults are coming to mind, right? Like
Yeah,
most
yeah.
cults start with like this beautiful core, but then the ego
Yeah.
of usually the founder and the unexamined subconscious of the followers taints it completely. So I'm coming to it now from this place of this is true. There is truth here, and it's only half of the puzzle. So it's, the yin and the yang. It's the lightness and the dark. It's the energetic world and the material world. It's not one or the other. It's, what you can do with your mind and your consciousness and what your body has experienced, what your ancestors have experienced, what the other bodies in this world that we're interconnected with, what they're experiencing. So I just think a lot of that world has so much baggage because it's so tied to, it's steeped in capitalism and white supremacy, and it's just missing. It's missing. It's missing I think a lot of times the shadow or the physical realm.
Yeah, and sometimes it can feel a little performative to me, get your Pinterest dream kitchen, manifest your perfect sculpted husband, man, partner, and I had to get over that. I had to get over that to do this. And it was, I don't know if I've said this on here or not, but it was actually my grandmother who hilariously calls herself a cow, which stands for cranky old woman, which she's not. I don't find her to be cranky. I just find her to be blunt and real, which I admire. And I remember talking to her about it and saying how frightening it was because it was so expensive. And
The studio was so expensive.
yeah. And she was like, "That's crazy. This is just a tool for you. It's just a tool for you to use to make a bigger difference in your world, Christina." And I was like, but she basically just wrote me a permission slip for doing it.
Yep.
And that, along with, I had this sort of download when I was driving that it just clicked, and it was like a switch flipped. All of a sudden it was like, oh, I don't remember if grandma had talked to me yet or not, but it was sort of the same message of this is actually not for you. This is for you to share, and the community, and it's already happening. It already happens in here. I hosted community Reiki in here yesterday. So it's not just for me. I believe fully that this is a space that's meant to be shared. And once I realized that, it was like, oh, okay, I would gladly give all that money away. So I'm totally going to do this so that I can give it away.
Yeah.
And so it aligned with me and what I feel like my role is in my lifetime now, for me to actually be in here and make beautiful art and write or whatever it is that I do in here, and sing and dance and all that stuff. And also, I love generosity is a core value for me. So being able to share it worked as well. Yeah.
I share that sentiment of, I don't want to have a big thriving business because I want to have a big spotlight on me. That has zero interest. I was just re-listening to the podcast where I was talking about this image of me being forced onto the stage, but, I need resources to live my life. And so I can live outside of scarcity, because the more I can live outside of scarcity, the more I can be present and be the seed and not be captured by those thoughts. And yeah, I would give everything. I want all the resources so I can give away more and more for free. I would give everything away for free. That would be a dream. So
That's
yeah,
the dream. Hold it.
Oh, I hold it. I definitely hold it. But then it has to turn into a practice. And because of my ADHD brain, I have to have a system to trigger me to do the practice. So I put it in my system that every morning before I even get out of bed, I close my eyes and I remind myself that I already have all the resources I need. How will this affect how I move through this day? And then to really anchor myself in that. And I'm on day one of it, right? But that's why I have the systems, though, because it's so easy to forget. So I have an app that I use that literally triggers me throughout my day, which I'm going to be giving out the system for free soon, which makes me really excited because, so yeah. That made me lose my train of thought. But something did come up when you were talking about like um, how you kind of without really consciously thinking about this, how did you live as the seed? And what
Mm,
came up is your process as an artist and the type of artists. I guess it's all artists, but like I was specifically thinking about your murmurations, and that's kind
mhm.
of not where you started, but that was like your first big focus of your career. And I remember you talking about how it moves through your hands 5 times,
Yeah.
and like I just had this image of or this knowing of like you have to know what it's going to be. Like you literally are being the seed in this very visceral physical process of moving the clay through your hands 5 times, always holding what it's going to be. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that resonates at all, but
Mm.
that's what came up for me is like you have been practicing this, whether consciously or not, but you've been practicing this for so long.
Yeah. Okay. So, yes, thank you for that. This is a series that's sort of on its way out. It's in like its winter season of me. I think it's going to be gone soon.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to think about the beginnings.
Mm.
I think I used to, because I'm very type A, not very ADHD, but I'm very type A, and I can check off to-do lists to a fault. And I used to blow through them and miss the moments of seedness. I
Mm.
used to think about the goal more, and life has rocked that out of me in a really beautiful way, in like a really like hard ass sculpture teacher in college, in twins, in a pandemic. Like there are many things that I can point to that rocked me out of my habitual, like I must know how to get to the end,
Mm.
and cross off these things on my list. But the the Murmuration series is a series of these small, for people who don't know, I'm a site-specific installation artist mostly. So it's making lots and lots of small things in a process-based nature in my studio that then go and become something much larger in the space that they're meant to be. So these are, like quarter-sized individual imprints of my thumbs in porcelain. And I began them as a seed, as a moment of a seed. I had been outside. I was looking at barnacles. I was looking at all these little things in nature and patterns in nature. And I was just making these individual imprints. And the process itself, otherwise called being the seed, in the moment, in my little table at my apartment, pressing my thumbs over and over again, was this meditative motion that felt really wonderful. And then I just went and put them up on this wall in a shop in South Boston. And then they sort of took off from there. And the first time that I had the opportunity to do them in a permanent fixture, they weren't even called a murmuration yet. I had done my process and taped them all out and put them on the wall. And then we took the tape off, which is always the most beautiful reveal. And the interior designer was the one standing next to me. And he said, "Oh, this kind of looks like a murmuration."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, whoa. And since then, I've been much more conscious about the process of it and knowing that these pieces do go through my hands 5 times between glazing and loading them in the kiln and putting them up finally. And it's such a attentive process, and they're each so cared for. And I like to think about it as this energy transfer of like putting them in their final place. But they feel like they could take flight at any moment. Um, it's really cool to think about that right now, because I'm at a point right now where I have to this is why it's helpful for me to go back and listen to my own voice memos or my own journal entries or my own conversations with you, because I'm so present in these conversations that I might forget what I said.
Yeah.
And so then to go back and re-listen, I am able to teach myself things I need to remember.
Mm.
And you always teach me, but it's really fascinating to go back and hear the thing I need to hear, but I'm the one who said it because I know it. It's in me somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm at this point now where I am very, very much in the place of the seed, and I've built this dream that I'm sitting in. And I think there's like a really big pivot that's coming, which is if I were very self-critical, I could think, what a waste. What a waste of time and money to spend on something like this where what you're here now and you want to do something else. Great. Good job. And I could be
Mm.
really critical. I live in that headspace for about 5 seconds, maybe one, not long,
I was going to
because
say it did not feel like, even when you said it, it didn't
it's
feel
not
like you at
me.
all. Yeah,
No, I know. You have to like shake it off. You just shook it off.
I did.
It's not me. That's not me. What I needed to make this container to realize that I am allowed to pivot inside of it if I need to,
Yeah.
and to realize, and who knows, I don't know what it's going to be. I think it has to do with writing. And this maybe is part of what it has to do with these conversations. But there are so many seeds I'm planting consciously right now and just, making like a delicate little hole, popping them in there and then nuzzling down and trying not to worry about money.
Mhm.
Because it's just very easy to get wrapped up in the money part because I have to make it. But yeah, it's an equally fertile and daunting place to be in
Mm.
the dark,
Aren't
right?
all fertile places in the dark, though? I'm thinking of a womb. I'm thinking of the
Yes.
earth where the seed is nestled. Like,
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. All of the what we talked about last time with, good, bad, all these dichotomies, dark, light, it does feel like universally we're kind of all here. Certainly in our country, we're here. I'm here. You're here. So many people that I'm talking to right now are in this place of having to be comfortable in this darkness.
yeah.
But really, like that's where the roots grow. You just have to water it and not see it and know that the seed is probably growing. And some seeds take longer to actually grow, bear fruit, or grow flowers than others.
Mhm.
So that's a nice reorientation kind of mantra of like, okay, I don't know if I have roots yet. It's okay if I don't. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
one of those seeds right now that actually takes a little while. I don't know. Hmm?
I
It's
almost
true.
got a little lightheaded right there. Like, I don't know, that something came up for me in that. I felt connected to like our individual seeds and then this collective seed and like something about that different pace of all different seeds because I orient towards um our interconnectedness, or as Thich Nhat Hanh would say, our interbeing.
Mm.
And so when you said that, like different pace, I just had this like visceral feeling in my, it's like a feeling in my body and a knowing of like, what seeds am I planting and what seeds am I planting in the collective that I will probably never see grow, And they're all at these different paces. And yeah, I don't know. It kind of made me a little,
Mm. Ooh.
little lightheaded in a good way.
Yeah. I
And then,
mean,
yeah.
that's what gardening is teaching me. Cultivating the land around this house is teaching me that some things grow slower. And even some things, like a perennial might come out very small the first year and it needs to go dormant again
Mm,
and grow back stronger the following year. It's just such a beautiful teacher. And just being the person who walks around and just watches it and tries not to like futz with it too much, but just witnesses these plants becoming what they're supposed to become on their
mm,
own time.
yeah.
And sometimes also like life wrecks them, like a dog, mister, can go and
scoop them up because he's just being himself,
Yeah.
dogging around, you know?
Yeah.
Then they don't get a chance to grow.
Mm.
It's all a very, very rich metaphor.
It really is. It's really um it feels like such a counterbalance to this other thing that's kind of been rattling around in my brain around AI and technology, and kind of it feels like there's these two realities that are trying to emerge right now and are not trying to emerge. There's the reality that we're talking about, this tending, this like receptivity, this allowing into this darkness, these conversations we're having, which has a very different pace and vibration. It's patient, it's slower, it's in darkness. And then when I reflect on this world of like AI and how like these techno oligarchs, when I start to offer too much of my attention to that world, I feel frenetic and fast, and it just feels so fast, like there's an urgency, like they're trying to race us towards something. I mean, they're building up these data centers like it's so urgent because China might build theirs faster, and it's like they're trying to suck us in to living in this reality that we all know in our being is unsustainable and is destroying our planet and is destroying the fabric of society. We know that you don't have to dig too far to get that knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's so prevalent everywhere that it's so easy to get sucked into offering our attention to this thing that I think internally we all know is not the future we want to seed. Like those aren't where our seeds are.
No.
Those are the crops that, need to be composted. Those are the crops that have had their time and need to be composted. But because it's everywhere, like you can't do an internet search these days without being force-fed AI. Although I did learn a trick. You at the end of your search, you do minus AI, and then you won't get the AI. So
Ooh.
everyone, that's an extra effort, right? You have to gain that knowledge, and then you have to practice doing that every time you do a search, which is a new habit. But to me, that's one tiny practice or one tiny effort that I am taking away my attention and placing it on the seeds that I want to build in this world. Because I don't want to seed or tend to a world where there's data centers everywhere and no one has clean water, But
Of
that
course.
takes effort,
Yeah.
and it takes friction. I'm realizing like this world that we've kind of been fed through all these technologies is to reduce friction everywhere. So like imagine when you're buying something, and this is the language that the tech companies use, right? Like order your groceries with no friction. You don't have to go there, and order your car, your Uber with no friction, Get served up AI in your internet search with no friction. And it's like I heard someone say recently that the friction is where our humanity is.
Yes. Yes. That's literally what I was just when you're saying all of this, it's taking our human connection away.
Yeah.
It's taking our human connection away. So this is reminding me, Paulo is eating everyone's shoes right now, and last night he ate one of Jack's shoelaces, and he has one of those, I don't know if you know this, parents might know this, but it's a BOA system. Actually, I think they're on like hiking boots and stuff too. But it is like aircraft cable and this little tightener, and he chewed this freaking BOA system aircraft cable. It's not like a replaceable shoelace.
Oh,
So I went online to try to figure out if we can fix it. This relates, I promise. And
I always trust you.
so we went online to see if we could fix it, and it turns out that BOA has a website, and I could have like chatted with some bot probably and figured out how to get a replacement. So a replacement, here's the silver lining. We can get it replaced.
Great.
But I'm going to, after we record this podcast, I'm going to call the mom and shop shoe store that we always buy our shoes at, and I'm going to talk to the man who's been working with the BOA system for literally 75 years. I know this because I went and bought a pair of shoes from him in person, and I like have a relationship with him in the community now. And I get to call him and talk to him about it and like get his feedback and his wisdom and show him that he is a human being who has an opinion that I value. And I don't want to have no human beings at grocery stores and things. I want to be able to talk to people. Even my father-in-law was here recently and he told us a story. He went to the grocery store and the kid, probably high schooler or something, who was checking out and bagging the groceries. My father-in-law was like, "Hey man, how's it going?" Like you would do to anyone. "How was your day?" And sometimes you get the transactional, "Fine, good. How's yours?" "Good. Okay, bye. Have a good day." But this kid like literally burst into tears and said, "Not going well."
Oh,
What, like, you have a reaction to that. I had a reaction to that. In 30 years, are people not going to know how to react to that?
yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty wild to me. I hope not.
Yeah. So this came up for me yesterday. I kind of had of course, I had the opposite experience of you did with the shoelaces because I was looking I had to get kind of a random assortment of things because I'm like setting up my plants for auto watering. And so I was trying to figure out what's the best solution. And so I was out in the world and I went to my grocery store, like the local grocery store, because they have a bunch of different things. So didn't quite find what I wanted. And I was like, I found myself struck by my lack of resourcefulness. Because I was like, well, shit, the only other place I can think of is Target. And I am like actively trying to boycott Target. I don't normally go to Target. This is the first time in like probably a year and a half or 2 years. And no judgment for people who go to Target. This is, this is all a practice and a process. But it really struck me my lack of resourcefulness in that moment. And yeah, it really just struck me how we're losing the resourcefulness and we're actually losing the people with the wisdom and with the knowledge. So that's what really struck me. I'm like, I don't want to lose these skills. I don't want to lose the skills of resourcefulness, and I don't want to lose the skills of how to talk to people. And there is friction among people, but like that's friction in that interaction. It's so much quicker to just get your groceries, not say a thing and move on, but to actually engage. It slows it down, creates some friction, probably friction for the people behind you. So you have to deal with a little bit of the pressure of people behind you want you to go fast. But here's this moment of genuine connection where someone is sharing their hurt. What are you going to choose? What choices are you going to have access to? Because this is why I get really passionate and excited about the gifts that I have been given that I get to hopefully pass on to other people. How do you have access to choice in that moment to step away from the automatic programming of both your individual life experience and what the culture is trying to get you to do? You have to have access to conscious choice, and that is a practice. You have to have the knowledge of how to do it, and you have to practice it. And obviously, this is my bias because this is my lens, but I get excited because I'm seeing more and more the value in what I have been gifted that I get to share. It's not about me, but if we all had access to choice in more moments of our life, we'd put the minus AI in our searches and take away their ability to choose for us. We would go talk to the local shoe guy and keep him in business rather than just defaulting to Amazon and,
Yeah.
take away a little. Our attention is our power. And that's why they spend billions of dollars trying to steal it from us. So the more, if I could affect one person to like reorient their attention by accessing conscious choice a little bit more in their life, like brings me so much joy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it seems like AI's job is to just like make things so much easier for us, right? I mean, I don't really know how they're selling it because I don't spend a lot of time paying much attention to it, but like, is that sort of the idea? Like this, we'll take care of this. Like AI can take care of this so that you don't have to do the hard stuff.
So there's a lot of voices in AI. So I don't think there's one,
Okay.
overarching voice. But I just listened to this podcast that was, the podcast was called, I think it's called Corporate Gossip. It's kind of fun because it like takes these really heavy topics and they research different corporations and really like give you they spill the tea, as I think they say these days. So it keeps it a little bit lighter, but they're really exposing really dark things about these corporations. And I listened to one about Sam Altman, who's the head of OpenAI, which gives us ChatGPT. And so if you were to listen to him speak and not dig any deeper, you would think that AI is meant to solve world hunger, solve the climate crisis. Like it's all these altruistic things, right? But if you dig deeper, he is a liar and has lied about the capability of OpenAI. And they just came out with Sora, which is like their video creation AI. And the technology is incredible. It can create videos out of just text that are super realistic. You can't really tell the difference. So it has massive implications for our ability to discern what's real and what's fake.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they rolled it out as a social media platform. So, like, the truth of what they're using these AI for is not altruistic in any sense. And, like I said, they're building these data centers that are using potable water. Like, they can't use wastewater. It's all drinkable water that they're using, and they're putting them in communities that are already at risk of water scarcity. And these are always, poorer communities where they're primarily people of color. So there's a real underbelly of these AI. Like Google, it now forces it on everyone in their search unless you do the minus AI. They've stopped reporting their energy usage. They used to commit themselves to reducing their energy emissions. They've now just stopped reporting it, and they've admitted they'll never meet their goals with AI. And so they're all just racing towards what? And it's the kind of the same thing of they're putting it under this guise of if we don't do it, someone else will, meaning China, which just echoes this like communist Red Scare bullshit that they propagandize us so that they can just increase their wealth and power. That's all it ever is about. And these systems are largely designed by white men. They're largely designed by people who I would argue don't have good social skills. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's pretty dark. I mean, the training that they do on these models, they act like there's no friction, there's no humans involved. But there's entire populations in like Kenya who are looking at horrific videos, images that they have to train the model to say, don't do this. Like this is
Oh.
so yeah, there've been like, and they're paid like next to nothing. They're totally taken advantage of. So there's this huge underbelly of all of these tech platforms, but then it's served up to us in the West as frictionless. But so you have to make the effort, you have to access choice to first get the knowledge because they're not serving it to you. You're not being served the truth of what AI and these tech oligarchs are doing. So you have to access the knowledge. And then it takes that practice of wisdom to actually change your habits, your thoughts, beliefs, and your actions. And that takes time. So, I mean, we've had conversations about ChatGPT, and I was
I
very
know.
dazzled. And I was kind of under this feeling of like, I'm going to have these conscious conversations with it. And
Yeah.
at least I'm training it. And I have no judgment of how I perceived it at that time because I went out and got more knowledge, you know? So I have now canceled my OpenAI account, deleted ChatGPT. I just weighed the cost and benefits, and it's like, I think it's actually making me a worse writer. It's not actually helping me. It's helping me write copy faster. But when I read it back, I'm like, I don't feel my soul in this.
Right.
I do use Claude, which is Anthropic. It's two siblings who used to be at OpenAI that started their own company. They left OpenAI because of the ethical concerns. There's no perfect AI company. They still have the whatever. And I use it very sparingly. And now that I know that I can avoid the AI search in Google, I use Claude less and I just do my own research. But I didn't intend for this to be like a
No, this
dissertation on
is
AI.
well, it's just an interesting thing because this whole time that you're talking, I'm hearing you say that they're saying if we don't do it, someone else will. That just makes me realize we need to be having these conversations and seeding the things that really matter to us. Because even though, it doesn't have as much quote unquote impact as something as large as an OpenAI company, the small day-to-day morsels that I, speaking for myself, am offered and gain from these conversations, or from walking slowly around my garden and actually realizing that some plants root slower than others. Those things are cultivating a quality of life that really, really matters to me. And then from that place, I'm able to expand into my small community here in a way that ripples out very authentically, and I believe encourages that in others. So I think that's really important work to be doing that counteracts all of this other crap.
That is really the biggest impact you can have. And it is so easy to get caught up in the bigness of these companies and the pervasiveness of these companies. And our brains just weren't meant to process how big the world is and how complex the world is and how many people there are in the world. But you're not really like you can make small impacts on a big national scale, right? You can vote, you can call your representatives, you can stay relatively informed. But where are you going to make your impact? It's not through what you are intaking through your mind, it's through the actions of your body.
Yeah. Yeah. And just thinking, like, actually pausing, having this pause. You even told me about you're remembering to practice the pause and reflecting, which I think is so, so helpful. Um, it decreases your reactivity in many situations because you're actually able to be where you are and make a choice. You talk about this all the time, like making a conscious choice. So even to just make a conscious choice of like, I have learned this thing, I'm going to do minus AI. That's so cool. I'm totally going to do that now when I
Yeah.
do a Google search. But just realizing that you don't have to give away your authority, right?
Yeah.
Even going back to when we talked about Hildegard von Bingen and you asked if she was, what did you ask? If she was like one of
Your
my,
guide.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't really know. And then you even said then, like, yeah, I see that you're not giving away your authority. Like you still are here. You're coming
Hmm.
from a place of your center. And the same thing was happening when I was choosing not to get pulled forward in the fear spiral about the studio. I would always come back and go to like, where is the home in place that I feel? So that can be that thought, that pause and centering can be applied to so many situations, as
Yeah.
small as when your dog eats another shoelace, and as big as something that's taking over the world like AI.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
as I've been developing, what is it that I want to share? What is it that I want to offer um, in my business and my offering? I kept coming back to framing around. Do you know who Viktor Frankl is? The Man's Search for Meaning. He was a
Mm,
Holocaust survivor and a psychiatrist. He wrote this book, Man's Search for Meaning, and it's attributed as a quote to him. He never quite said it, but it's a really good framing of his philosophy, of his framework. And it's between stimulus and response, there is a space. In
mhm.
that space lies your power to choose. And in that choice lies your growth and your freedom.
Cool.
And I love this because it gives me something to hang the teachings on. So it's like stimulus. What's stimulus? It's anything that happens to you. It's anything that you encountered in your day to day. And what's your response, right? Well, response is going to come from one of two places. It's going to come from your automatic programming, so a reaction, or it's going to come from a conscious choice made by your conscious mind, by your prefrontal cortex in that moment. And between that stimulus and response, whether it's reactivity or choice, there's a space. But that space is often so small that we don't even notice it because we're running so fast, because our culture is so fast. So the practice of learning meditation, of learning how to slow down, is the practice of strengthening our ability to notice that space. And then notice if reactivity comes up. If reactivity comes up, what do? We have to be with our nervous system and regulate our nervous system so that that reactivity in our nervous system isn't making us react. Instead, we can pause with that reactivity, with that activation in our nervous system, and access choice.
Mm-hmm.
And in that choice is our growth, because every time you make a new choice, you're moving beyond that programming and into something new, a new version of yourself. Because if we're always on autopilot, we're just a replica of our past over and
Mm-hmm.
over and over again, and we're not growing. And that's where I get to freedom. Freedom is such a huge through line that I've come to in my offering, because when you can choose in any moment how you show up, when I choose to put minus AI in my search term, I am free of what these tech oligarchs are trying to impose upon me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then the more that you practice that, the more that becomes your habit.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
that becomes my automatic.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's always growing and churning in this infinite loop. So, something else is going to come up and I'm going to need to know they're going to get smart and find another way to try to
Mm-hmm.
trap me in. I heard a creator on TikTok once say that we are all living in a collective imagination. Whose imagination have we been living in? and whose imagination do we want to choose to live in? And predominantly, we've been living in the imagination of cis straight white men. And this is not a bash of cis straight white men. I am just saying that we've had this homogenized imagination of our dominant culture. And I don't want to live in that imagination anymore.
Yeah. We can try something else.
Lots of different things. Diversity, you know?
We have a new garden to seed.
Ooh,
What does it look like? What could it look like
what could it look like?
to inhabit that imagination? That's a nice practice to think about. Like, yeah, thinking about it as something that grows. Like, what does the garden that I want to live in, what does the garden that you want to live in look like?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then being the seeds of that garden.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. In lots of different choices, in lots of different ways. Yeah.
And then having so much grace for yourself when you're not able to make those choices, because it is a practice and it's not a binary of you're either tending to this future garden or you're living in the garden that needs to be composted. It's not a binary. We're dancing between each.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful thought.
Mm-hmm.
The music was recorded live as a part of the sound service at 3S Art Space in Portsmouth, New Hampshire in January 2025, where musicians responded to the changing light in the room that reflected and refracted through Christina's suspended artwork. Andrew Halchak, the composer of this piece, is playing bass clarinet, and Tomas Cruz and Katie Seiler are singing.
I know that antsy feeling so well. Like that feeling of like you can, again, using the language of the seed, like I can see all these little seeds and I can see what they're all going to become. And I just am so excited and like wanting it to go. But that's what I was trying to express. Like I usually get stuck in that. And then there's the frustration that it's not happening fast enough, you know, because I'm just like bursting and so excited for all these different things. And I can see how all the little seeds will connect and create this beautiful, harmonious garden that like all harmonizes together. Like I get really excited about the connections between these seeds when I can see it. Yeah, that is like where I've lived most of my life, is like in that excited feeling and like seeing all of it. And now I'm learning patience of like coming back, which is such a different vibration. It's like holding these two vibrations. I know we've talked about this before. And I think it was from the telepathy tapes where one of the non-speakers was like, it was the one with the tuning forks. And he said, there's two vibrations. There's like a vibration to his body and a vibration to his soul. And I feel that so clearly, that like this patience and this being the seed is such a slow vibration in me. But then there's the vision, which is so like kinetic and like loud and fast, and yeah, how to hold them both and how to have patience. That's what I'm learning.